So for the classmates that cannot log in tonight, we will be recording this and posting it to YouTube so they can still get it and you can reference back. I want to remind you to keep your mics muted during the presentation, and at the end we will have an opportunity for question and answer in which you can unmute your mic at that point and ask any questions. But if anything comes up throughout this convocation, there are several FAs on the chat line. We have Senior Chief Bankus, Senior Chief Cody, and Senior Chief Santos. They will be available to answer any text or chat that you put into the meeting. So we'll now begin. So an overview of what we will talk about today. We will talk about the syllabus. We'll go over how to navigate Blackboard, your major assignments, keys to success, and then good information to know. So we'll get right into it with talking about the syllabus. The important thing to know is that at the Senior Enlisted Academy, our week runs from Monday through Sunday, Eastern Time. So all assignments maybe will do at 23:59 Eastern Time, and your discussion boards will have different requirements, but all deadline times are based on Eastern Time. So you'll have 2 FAs assigned to your group and a backup, which might help, but the military faculty advisor is responsible for grading your essays and is going to be during your in-resident phase. They'll also be able to answer any kind of questions you have throughout the process. Adjunct faculty advisors are previous military faculty advisors, but now they're all retired and they just grade discussion boards and capstone essays on the side. Available via email if you need any information on your discussion board or that capstone essay. Discussion boards for everything but week 1 will be due on Wednesday for your primary discussion board and Saturday for your secondary discussion board at 23:59. I said with the first week because this week both your primary and secondary response will be due Saturday at 23:59. And each week you will have 2 questions which you'll have to answer, in which you'll give a primary post and then to one of your classmates for their secondary post. Then we'll look at your weekly topics within the syllabus. Just a brief overview, you'll have essays due weeks 2, 4, 6, and 7. You'll have exams on weeks 3 and 5, and then those essays will become speeches when you come in residence, so the more preparation you do now during the distance learning phase will help during your in-resident portion. In the syllabus, we also go over the grading criteria, and here at the Senior Enlisted Academy, we have a 3-strike rule, which means that if you receive 3 academic failures, you are disenrollment by the director. And we'll go over that more when we talk about the syllabus. You'll also be receiving several surveys, and you should have already received your class up survey, which is due this week. You'll receive a distance learning survey, and then right before they're due at 0700 Eastern Time on Friday, you'll receive a reminder email from Dr. Bud Baker. So some important things to note with the syllabus is you want to avoid some easy failures. And one of those ways is that if you miss any deadline without prior authorization from your faculty advisor, that's considered an academic failure. So all faculty advisors are active duty military to succeed, so make sure you reach out to your faculty advisor early with any troubles you may have. Also, busting the similarity index. When we go over your practical exercise, we will point out where you can find that similarity index, but your essays will be turned into a program called Turnitin, where your essays will be previous essays that have been turned into educational institutions. So if you are it's just a tool to catch plagiarism. So just make sure that you're paraphrasing your machine properly and you're not busting that similarity index, which is different for each assignment, but it's going to result in a minus 31 points, and that's an automatic failure. And then there are several places where you can find deadlines. The syllabus will have a deadline. There will be a calendar, which we'll go over. You'll have a weekly checklist. Your faculty advisor will also back up with additional deadlines. And most importantly, advisors will review your essay outlines prior to your essay being due. But based on their schedule, they'll have those outlines due at various times during the week, so that way they can give you back feedback. And then when you go into your weekly discussion board threads, you'll see those deadlines. So now I'm going to pull up, and when we're in Blackboard, we'll go over the announcements, weekly lessons, events, quizzes, resources, my grades.
Test, test.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
Okay, you're up, Justin.
Testing, 1, 2.
No,
Testing.
okay, it's Jill.
Jill?
All right, we're having some technical difficulties. I'm on my phone, so we're going to get this started here again in a minute. Stand by.
Where did it cut out?
Go back a little bit.
Okay. All right, so we will start back to where we went to the Blackboard portion. So when you log into Blackboard, this is the screen that'll come up. It'll show that you're in Senior Listed Academy Course 225. And then you'll have the announcements. These are just major class-wide events that'll put out information from either the Command CFL, the Travel Department, or any of the other administrators here at the Senior Enlisted Academy. So we'll go over the So we'll go over the Navy War College Library. Since this is an established college, you will have access to the War College's library using your Blackboard login. Here you can find credible sources and use all of this for your research for your essays that are due. You can simply use this as your search database and then log in with your Blackboard account, and it'll give you lots of resources from the Navy War College. So now we'll go over the Start Here tab. So here's where you'll start off your Senior Enlisted Academy course, and some of you may already logged in. This is where you'll find your mandatory 6 steps to begin. So you'll click on that, and there's a checklist of 6 steps. Step 1 is to watch an orientation video similar to this that gives you a course overview, talks about the weekly battle rhythm. It'll show you how to upload your PME completion evidence and your Senior Enlisted Academy acknowledgement letter to your group journal. These are due tomorrow by 23:59 Eastern Time, and you have to prove that you completed either the Navy PPME, the SCJ PME 1 and 2, and then you also have to upload your SEA Commanding Officer acknowledgement letter. And for E7s, that is different than your endorsement letter. Step 3, you're required to read the syllabus and discussion board rubric, and then complete the syllabus knowledge check, which will gain access to your weekly lessons. Step 4, you'll review the major assignments tab and your calendar tab. You'll go through your resources tab, and then at the following, you will post your 6 steps acknowledgement to your group discussion board. So for your PME completion, everyone should have their group right here on the side tab. I'm in Gray Group since I'm the Gray Faculty Advisor. You can click the tab and select Group Journal. Inside your group journal, you will see everyone has uploaded their PME and their SEA acknowledgement letter underneath their name, and then you just simply attach the files. Your faculty advisors will check that you did that correctly. The next step is to review the syllabus and your discussion board rubric, which can be found under Start Here, the Download Center, and then up top you will find both your syllabus, your discussion board rubric, your writing rubric, and your speech rubric, as well as the student handbook. So when you click on your syllabus, this will come up. And in the syllabus, there's a lot of information about the entire course. And as briefly discussed before, it will have both your mandatory 6 steps. It'll also have a class overview. So as you can see, week 1, your major assignments are going to be your class sub-survey. Week 2, you have your ethics essay and your capstone student roles due. The capstone outline, reference page, and quiz number 1 is due week 3. Week 4 is your problem essay. Week 5, midterm exam. Week 6 is your heritage. Week 7 is your capstone. Essays due, as well as your core strengths assessments, which you can use for your in-residence phase. As we continue to review the syllabus, there's some more detailed information on what's required each week, including your required reading and any due dates that might be applicable to that week. In the syllabus, you'll also find the grading criteria and the weighted grades. So as you can see, your ethics essay and your quiz 1 and discussion boards for week 1 are feedback only. So at the Senior Enlisted Academy, all your first assignments are just for you to get used to how to use Blackboard, how to take the quizzes and kind of see what we look for. So that way your faculty's advisors can give you feedback without it affecting your overall grade. And then we get to the student action matrix. Earlier we talked about the 3 strike rule. Well, these are where your strikes come from. In general, your first failure is going to result in a written counseling from your faculty advisor. Your second failure will result in a written counseling and an academic review board where a panel of faculty advisors will discuss with you any shortcomings you may be having or any problems and try to address any issues early on. And then that third failure will result in referral to the director and most likely disenrollment. Under academics is where you'll find your academic failures. So if you get an essay graded less than 70% or 70% or late, that's going to automatically result in a failure. If you fail your midterm, which is less than 70%, that'll also result in an academic failure, and so on and so forth. So that's how you accrue your 3 academic failures. So the key thing to remember is that you have to score greater than a 70% on all your assignments, and if it's late, it automatically counts as a failure. Your discussion board posts have slightly different requirements, and they're located at the bottom of the action matrix. So the first time you're late or at 70%, you'll receive a verbal counseling, and it'll accrue all the way up until your 3rd failure within the discussion boards, and that will result in your first academic failure. Next, we're going to go over your weekly lessons. For the weekly lessons, you'll click on the weekly lessons tab, and you'll come up to this screen initially, which is your knowledge check for the syllabus. It's 3 questions. You got to get a 100% to get access to your weekly lessons. So once you review the syllabus, go ahead and take this quiz, and you'll gain access to what you're required to do on a weekly basis. So I'll go ahead and complete that quiz. Next, you'll come up to this screen. You have access to all 7 weeks of assignments. This will have your required reading and any additional resources that you need. So we'll click on week 1. And similar to your 6 steps, you'll see a comprehensive checklist of everything that is due during that week. The next tab that we're going to go over is your major assignments tab, and this will cover your essay information. So you'll have the assignments for all your essays from the beginning if you need to work forward or you need to download any information. But your first essay to be due is your ethics essay. And here you'll find your practical exercise. Now, each essay has a different practical exercise which contains the requirements for your essays. So for the ethics essay, you will choose a case from the Encyclopedia of Ethical Failures. So don't choose an entire chapter. Make sure that you pick a particular case, and then you'll post it in your discussion board for your faculty advisor's approval. So post the title and page number. Next, you'll prepare an outline and submit it to your FA in accordance with their guidelines. You'll use 3-part communications, which will go over how to find that information in a minute. And then you'll be required to write a 2 to 3 page essay on the topic, not including your title and reference pages. So when it says 2 pages, it means 2 pages, not almost 2 pages. And a 3-page assignment is 3 pages and not 4. So just to keep that in mind. And each essay has a different length requirement. We use APA formatting, and we'll go over that further when we go into the resources tab. And then you'll be required to use a minimum of 2 references, credible references for this essay. which you can use that Navy War College library for. And one of your references is going to be the Encyclopedia of Ethical Failures, which is where you got your case study. As we continue on, here's your similarity index. For the first assignment, you cannot exceed 30%. So when you upload it in to turn it in, it'll give you a similarity index, and as long as you're below 30%, your essay is good to go, as long as you properly cited those references. If you exceed 30%, you can go back and readdress your essay to paraphrase any material, and then resubmit it as many times as you need to prior to the deadline. Once you submit it, once the deadline approaches, whatever is in, turn it in is what is going to be your final product. Make sure you write all your essays in third person. So he, she, they. Don't use I, me, or we. And this can kind of get difficult once we get in the later essays when we're asked to write about our opinion. Then you will get your main points for this practical exercise. Your main points are going to be background and impact. And this essay must use those main points that are given to you. So when we talk about three-part comms and it tells you to address the main points, use these main points exactly as written in the practical exercise. And those will vary based on assignment as well. Continue on reading. There's a detailed description about each main point on some focus areas that your essay should cover. Also in your major assignments tab, you'll have an ethics essay in APA format. So you can kind of compare your essay based on the template. You'll find your Encyclopedia of Ethical Failures, which you'll pick your case study, and then a sample outline, and also your essay rubric. Okay, so the next tab we will go over is the calendar tab. So not only do you have assignments available in your syllabus and on your weekly lessons, but you also have a comprehensive calendar in which you can look at when the assignments are due. There's also a link in which you can add this to your personal phone. So as you can see, tomorrow the 6 steps are due at 23:59 Eastern Time, and then on Saturday is your primary and secondary discussion board post. As you continue on through the course, you'll see that your capstone, your major assignments, they're all listed in your calendar. This class is kind of unique because it has our summer academic stand-down. So from the first 2 weeks in July, we will be in an academic stand-down in which you'll have no academic requirements. So your week 6 will end, and then you will have no requirements due for 2 weeks until the Senior Enlisted Academy comes back from the academic stand-down. And then prior to, so your Heritage essay is actually going to be due on the 14th of July at 23:59. The next tab we're going to go over is the Resources tab. So here's where you're going to find a lot of good information, such as mastering three-part comms. So three-part communications is the model that we use here at the Senior Enlisted Academy to allow you to have a clear and concise method in order to organize your thoughts and get your point across. There's also other good information, such as your sample outlines, using passive versus active voice, and a three-part comms troubleshooting guide that you can go over prior to turning in your assignment to make sure that you hit all the requirements of three-part comms. Another good resource is if you haven't used APA-style papers prior to this, there's a lot of resources available in the APA Resources tab, including sample templates again. You'll get your APA manual, in which all the requirements come from, on how to use cite a source, how do you even some grammar corrections, and how you properly add credibility to your paper. The next tab we'll go over is going to be your quiz and midterm. So that quiz 1 is located here, as well as your midterm exam. And when they are due, you'll come in here, you'll simply click on it. You'll get this begin quiz, and once you start, you can go ahead and answer any questions based on what the Blackboard assignments have already been covered. Under the View My Grades tab, you'll get your feedback from your essays as well as your discussion boards. And when they're graded, you'll see your grades pop up over here on the right-hand side. And then you'll be able to click on that assignment name, and it will give you your feedback from your faculty advisor. Okay. So we've gone over how to access the library, announcements, weekly lessons, major assignments, quizzes and exams, the resources available, and then how you're going to review your grades, as well as your feedback from your assignments. We covered your major assignments tab. Again, practical exercises are provided all the requirements that you need. So make sure that when you're going to submit an essay, you review that practical exercise again to make sure that you meet all the requirements. The required main points are given in the practical exercise for your first 2 essays and also your capstone. I know that some students probably had some prior college prior to this, and I would encourage you just to follow the guidelines of 3-part comms, because we're going for a clear and concise essay that gets the points that we need. Similarly for that essay length, number of references, etc. And each essay is going to have different requirements, so make sure you review the correct practical exercise prior to submitting. And then the capstone project is a group project for your color group, and it'll be completed from the beginning of distance learning all the way until the final week in residence portion. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the capstone in the major assignments tab, so that way you know where to find all that information. Now your topic is going to be given by your adjunct faculty advisor during week 2. But here in your major assignments tab, you'll see your capstone group project information. So you'll find your practical exercise. The student week 2 is going to be where your capstone topic is assigned, and then your student roles will be assigned in your student roles wiki, and that's based on however your group wants to utilize their strengths and weaknesses. Week 3 is going to be your outline and reference page, which will be due. Week 7 is your final essay. On week 7 at Wednesday, you have to turn in your rough draft to turn it in just to check for the similarity index, and then the final product is due at the end of week 7. And then during in residence portion, your final week in residence, your group will present the project in front of the entire class. So next we're going to go over discussion boards. So under your group, you'll see the group discussion board. So if you click on that, this screen will come up, and it's divided up by weeks. So each week you'll have 2 questions that you have to discuss on. So for week 1, we're going to be talking about the professional arms and 3-part communications. So when the assignment says that 2 primary posts are due and 2 secondary posts, that means that you have to answer each one of these questions with a primary response, and then provide a secondary response to one of your fellow group mates on each question. And for this week, those will be due Saturday at 23:59 Eastern Time. So your discussion board rubric is different than your other assignments. And the intention for this is to open a conversation for the online learning. So to start off your discussion board post, you want to answer the question, then focus on critical thinking using the why in your answers. Now the discussion board is also a good place where you can practice your APA citation using professional language, tone, writing skills, etc. And your adjunct faculty advisor will be able to provide you feedback, which also helps strengthen your essays. And all of those are due with the primary responses on Wednesday at 23:59 Eastern Time and secondary at 23:59 Eastern Time, with the exception of the first week. You have word limits for your discussion board post, and this just allows you to focus in your ideas on the topic that you are trying to portray. So for your primary response, it will be 200 to 250 words, and secondary responses to each other will be limited to 50 to 100 words. The grading criteria will go over promptness, if you meet the deadline, mechanics, and then the content of the message that you are actually trying to portray. And if you have any questions on this, just go ahead and reach out to your adjunct faculty advisor after the first week, and they'll be happy to answer any questions. So now that we've gone over discussion boards, each week we'll have 2 different themes: the basics, word count, and citing sources. We are going to move on to the keys to success. So be open to learning experience. We're all learning from all around the world, and a lot of us, this is the first time that we've had any kind of online learning experience. So just be open to the feedback so that way we can help each other out and we can all improve our writing. Make sure you read and follow the practical exercise. Each assignment is different. I can't stress it enough that you pull up in that practical exercise and you make sure that you're hitting your wickets. Pay attention to deadlines. If you miss a deadline, it counts as an automatic failure. With that being said, we understand that everyone has operational commitments. So as long as you communicate those early and often enough, your faculty advisor will be able to adjust the schedule and help you reach the deadlines and turn in your assignments. So make sure that you just communicate with your faculty advisor. We all just want you to succeed. And if you don't communicate, we have to assume that you don't need any help. Use your mess. Just like on the ship, where you have the resources throughout the chief's mess, this is also your chief's mess. Your group is along there with you, so if you have any questions and you want to share feedback between each other, I would highly recommend that you do that. And then you find and use an academic mentor. So an academic mentor is anyone who has completed the Senior Listed Academy within the last year. They're going to be able to provide you any feedback or any guidelines that they have learned and how to use 3-part comps. Additionally, if you go to the Senior Enlisted Academy's Facebook page, there's a recent post in which several graduates have volunteered to be an academic mentor if you're looking for somebody. If you can always just reach out to people at your command, but if you don't have anyone at your command that's previously qualified, graduated from Senior Enlisted Academy, go ahead and log on to Facebook and reach out to one of your brothers and sisters on there. So good to know information is the student handbook under the download center. Where you found the syllabus, you'll also find your student handbook. So this student handbook is used during your in-residence phase. It'll give you all the information that you need to succeed here in residence, including what uniforms you're wearing, physical training requirements, where you show up on day 1 here in Tomich in a few months. It'll also go over duties and responsibilities for various roles throughout the class. And then group t-shirts. Each color group They're not required to get PT shirts. However, we do class-wide physical training events in which some groups to emphasize the camaraderie within their team. Now, those are not required for your group. However, most groups do get that, and it definitely adds to the spirit of corps among the group. If you do decide to get group shirts, I'd recommend reaching out to your in the selection process. Now we're going to talk about DTS. So from the DTS coordinator, make sure that you don't book your lodging in DT available in week 2. And then you'll also find 5 steps in the DTS travel info tab in Blackboard, which I'll pull up now. That'll be available right here along the left-hand side under DTS and travel information. Our travel department has gone through great detail in order to give step-by-step instructions on exactly how to submit your authorization, so that way you can get approved and up to Newport, Rhode Island on time, and then return back to your command and get paid for your expenses. And this is where you'll find the step-by-step process in which you are to utilize. And then a generic overview is going to be on week 1, you'll go over the DTS prereqs. Just make sure you have a government travel card, etc. Week 5 will be your DTS authorization is due. At the beginning of week 7, on that Wednesday range, without Senior Enlisted Academy prior to approval. So just remember, we have a lot of students coming through at the same time, so our travel department works really hard, and once things are approved, without an extenuating circumstance, it's really hard to get changed. If you're going to check it, do not delete that travel itinerary. So that's typically going to arrive after the distance learning phase during your admin week, by close of business on Wednesday. Now, if any issues come up during your travel to Senior Enlisted Academy, SATO is going to be your go-to point. And if you have any specific questions, you can contact the Senior Enlisted Academy DTS Coordinator at this email address, SCA-DTS-Coordinator@usnwc.edu. And our travel department is super friendly and ready to answer all your questions. So in summary, make sure you follow the Blackboard announcements and then contact the SCA DTS coordinator for any specific questions. I talked to Ms. to point out 3 things based on past experience. When you create your DTS authorization, make sure you route it to the Senior Enlisted Academy. With a few exceptions, most Navy will be paid for those authorizations. If you don't route them to our travel department, they can't approve it. Then don't create that DTS authorization until the cross-org LOA is released. So that cross-organization line of accounting will be available via an analysis on the approval. So once that is approved or released, that's when you'll go into DTS and create your travel. Make sure that you're paying attention to Blackboard and don't try to get too ahead with the travel, because our travel department is also dealing with other classes and there's a certain problem in this process as possible. Also, do not book NGIS on base. There will be a room block for the Senior Enlisted Academy that will be released via an announcement. So when that announcement comes out is when you will contact the number given to you and tell them you're part of Senior Listed Academy Class 2 Blackboard right now, and they will organize it for you. All right. So, in summary, today we went over how to navigate Blackboard. We went over major assignments overview. We went over the discussion board. We talked about some keys to success, and then some good to know information. Okay. So if you haven't asked your questions in the chat along the side, you can now unmute your mic and ask the questions.
Yeah, quick question. Discussion board tab, I don't know how you got there.
Okay, discussion board tab. I will pull up my Blackboard right now, and yours is going to look slightly different. But once you get to all the tabs on top, you'll see my groups. I'm in the gray group. Are you tracking with me?
Yes, I see my groups, gray group. Yep.
Okay, so you'll click that down arrow, and you'll see the group discussion board there.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
And another way you can do it is you click the arrow on the right next to the gray group, and that'll bring up your group page, in which your faculty advisor will give you just a brief overview, and then you can access all those tabs on the side as well.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, we'll give it another minute or so if there's any more questions. If not, we're going to wrap it up in about a minute or so.
Hey, Justin. Is there any, is the class only active duty, or is it a hybrid reserve active duty?
Yeah, so we may have a reservist or two.
So this is a primarily active duty course. We'll have individuals from all different branches in this course, but it is not closed to reservists. So the reservists that join this class will be coming to the full 3 weeks in residence.
Good copy, thanks.
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Hi, just making sure it's working. Is DTS only required for Navy folks? Originally, when I went through, I thought I'd read that for other branches, we would coordinate with our travel liaison.
Yeah, so if your sister service, you'll coordinate with your travel liaison and also contact our travel department.
Roger that. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, Class 225, on behalf of the Senior Listed Academy, we look forward to working with you and helping you learn over the next few weeks and seeing you in Newport here in the end of July. Have a good night.
Thank you.